the point is that they're fragments of silicon, not what you can assemble them into.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. So not gonna lie, things have been kind of a mess this past week. Mainly due to Petty, and his his body.
My broken fucking meat suit.
I suppose that is a way of putting it. With that in mind, you should give the audience, such as it is, details on what's been going on this past week.
All right, so I guess for anybody who missed last week, I was out having a surgery. I had a procedure to put in a medical device called a baclofen pump, which delivers a medication called baclofen directly into my spine to help with the muscle spasms I have from the condition I have called cerebral palsy. So the surgery happened, everything was cool. They decided to keep me for observation and stuff. I guess somebody didn't give the hospital the message that they weren't supposed to continue my baclofen medication after they gave me the pump. And they were still giving it to me when they weren't supposed to, and I had a pretty bad reaction. Like, I was vomiting and extremely weak, and what ended up being what was supposed to be a one-night stay in the hospital ended up me not being released till Monday morning. So that was fun. I'm doing okay, though I can definitely feel the effects of the pump because baclofen is a muscle relaxer. So I definitely can feel I'm not as strong as I was before, and I'm also getting tired easier. But that could also be an effect of having fairly major surgery a week ago. So yeah, today is the first day I've been at my computer in a little over a week. So hopefully I start feeling better. I do see the doctor on the 18th, which is next Tuesday. And they did turn down the pump originally because when they were giving me the back of it in the hospital, they realized, oh shit, we're accidentally overdosing him. So they may need to turn it down a little bit more because I think they still have a few more steps down they can go. So hopefully it helps, because one good thing I do like that instead of the chronic pain I was having where it felt like, best I can describe it is somebody coming up and grabbing the muscles of my legs extremely hard. The worst I feel now is somebody coming up and like giving me a tap on the back of the leg or something. Which, I mean, compared to 30 years, 30 plus years of ungodly pain, every once in a while feeling like you get a tap on the back of the leg, I could live with that, even with the, weakness I'm having right now. So, next we got to figure out what we're going to do for physical therapy, because for some ungodly reason, getting physical therapy on Medicaid is one of the hardest things I've ever had to freaking deal with. I don't know why.
Because it's not real medicine. It's just people, telling you to do exercise, right?
I have no idea what the hell they're doing. It was just one of those, Medicaid doesn't pay us enough type deals, or what. But yeah,
I'm only somewhat joking. A lot of it really is just like about well, that's not the kind of treatment we want to do.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
There's a reason they had to. One of the biggest things in the Obamacare thing was like making rules about you can't just completely. You have to allow, and I think there's something before that. You have to allow like preventative stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and not just emergency trauma shit.
Yeah, like I know with my original knee problem, if Medicaid would have allowed for me to get therapy, there's a chance I may not have needed that surgery back in 2019. But we'll never know. Sometimes insurance sucks. Don't get old, kids. But yeah, I did not do a whole lot of anything really last week because I've kind of been out of it between, pain meds and constantly being dosed with a muscle relaxer. So I guess next victim.
Well, Alex, that'd be you.
The biggest thing over the last few weeks has been, frankly, or the last couple of weeks has been, frankly, a lot of plans getting postponed and canceled. But we've scheduled, including after missing 2 weeks of my Pathfinder game, the one when we were supposed to come back also got canceled because one pair was camping and one pair was sick. So they didn't want to do it, which is fair. And then this coming weekend, I'm probably going to have to leave early because my online Cyberpunk game that it's been a couple of months since we were able to play, we scheduled a new thing only because it's been a couple of months. Some people had some changes with work and stuff, and Saturday no longer works, so we decided to try Sunday, and we're going to see how that goes. So I think we might end up doing reviews on Monday that week, we talked about, and I'll have to see if Mac minds me missing it. I suspect he might not, but we'll see. Video game-wise, I'm almost done with Tears of the Kingdom. Technically, I could go do the final boss sequence when I wanted to, but I have a couple of other things I want to finish first. Get some more Korok seeds, possibly finish up the signs. I've already gotten all of the shrines. I still have a few light roots I haven't gotten around to. All of the wells, all of the caves, and a few other things. Anyway, getting close to the end of that. Also, did a little bit more of Splatoon 3 and Pokemon Scarlet. Also, my Tears of the Kingdom guide finally arrived today. It doesn't have that much new to it, and I was slightly disappointed that it didn't have the art section that the one for the last game did, but I did get the collector's edition that already had an art book, so I'm not complaining about that too much.
Is this an official Nintendo guide, or is it like a Prima guide, or?
It is friggin', I forget, because it's a collector's edition, it doesn't have big branding on it. It's the complete official guide collector's edition, so.
Alright. Because I know sometimes Nintendo partners up with like Prima or whoever does strategy guides nowadays.
Yeah, it's not Prima. The forward said that it's from the Piggyback team. Who have been creating game guides for 25 years, apparently. So, I don't know. Usually I've found that game guides are relatively non-forthcoming with who actually made them because they're all about the game that it is.
Yeah, at least not anymore. I remember back in the fucking, mid to late 2000s. You got your Bradley games, you got your Prima.
Well, even then, they had like the brand on the spine and shit, but they wouldn't like actually credit the people who wrote it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that game. Oh, and I decided to use the family's Netflix to watch Nimona, and I thought that was pretty good. And I also got the graphic novel and haven't finished reading it yet.
Oh, man.
And I think that's about where I am.
All right. I guess it's my go. So, clearly the biggest thing going on show-wise is nothing, because we had to cancel the reviews. As Petty wasn't up to it, to say the least, being in the hospital. But
in fairness, I think we were probably being a little bit overly optimistic about ability to do stuff shortly after significant torso surgery.
I mean, it's kind of amazing he's here tonight.
Yeah. If I didn't have a chance to lay down after dinner, this show probably would have been canceled.
So, yeah, with that in mind, last week's reviews have been shifted to next Monday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a Friday show happening this week. And that's on schedule for now. Hopefully everything balances out. But getting to personal news, I ordered a new phone today. Mainly due to the fact that my old phone has got some new cracks in it.
At least Prime Day's going on, so you can get decent deal on one.
Well, my cell phone provider has their own deals. Yeah. So, I managed to pick one up. It's like, just pay them $30 up front and pay them $10 for the next 2 years. Like, they changed that because they used to have that for a year, but now it's 2 years. Don't know why.
Yeah.
Because the prices of phones went up.
Possibly, but the phone I selected wasn't exactly, top of the line. It is apparently from, it's basically what I got now, but for 2023, and it's got 5G and all that. And should be here by next week. My current phone is usable, but there are visible cracks in this thing again. And given how much it cost me to actually get the screen replaced, it's about as much as getting a new phone. So,
admittedly, our family has the T-Mobile protection plan thing, but again, two people in our family have physical disabilities, so it ends up being worth it in the end.
Well, I got a protection plan for this new phone.
Mm-hmm.
So, only $5 more.
Yeah.
Against drops and stuff. Yeah, so that's our news for the week. And well, we shift over to double topics because, well, mainly because the guest, um, one of these guests who never replied, but also another one of these guests that had to delay things from some weeks ago due to health stuff. Like in this case, was the guest whose son had 3 seizures. Like, so I'm not exactly surprised that situation hasn't cleared up, as best as I can tell. Like, but with that in mind, so first up this week we're talking about the Activision Microsoft merger, or the Microsoft Activision purchase, or however you want to frame it. Because we have
the latest step in the saga of fucking companies wanting to own all of the thing.
like something along those lines, but legally speaking, that is not occurring. Like, yeah, but anyway, so we haven't been talking about it, but there's been a lot of stuff going on with Microsoft and Actibliz recently. In fact, there was a hearing, or an actual trial. Yeah. In California, the FTC versus Microsoft. That occurred last week. Like over the course of 5 days, via 2 separate weeks, let's say. Like, a lot of stuff came out of that. A lot of sort of video game knowledge has been learned, but we're not talking about that, because the outcome of the trial is now known, and the FTC has lost. They lost their preliminary injunction. And Microsoft has cleared a major hurdle in the merger, but not all hurdles have been cleared. They're still wrangling with the CMA in the UK.
Yeah, although that's not being super vigorous, frankly.
It's hard to say because the situation here is very fluid. And it's also the merger deadline is apparently next week. Like, I think I saw it was July 19th. But I'm sure that can be amended given everything that's going on. Though that being said, Microsoft might. It's been speculated that Microsoft might carve out an exception for the UK, whatever that would look like. Because
not be the first time stuff like this has happened, won't be the last.
Right. Like, what that could mean is everything from like all Activision titles being pulled off of UK shelves, to like Call of Duty being delisted. These are things that I've seen. I have no idea how solid all of that is, but we'll see in earnest. What is known is that the CMA has resumed negotiations. And they put their legal proceedings aside for the moment. And the FTC is not done, as just a few hours ago, they have formally announced that they are going to be appealing their decision to the Ninth Circuit. Which is going to be interesting. As I understand it, that I think I saw that the Ninth Circuit established some precedents that were at play here. But so there's the problem with talking about this is there's so much of it here. Just for example, the document that the FTC just dropped a few hours ago is 400 fucking pages. This is all literally huge.
And my understanding from what I read about it is that a lot of it ended up kind of focused on the Sony factor.
Yeah. So, the FTC didn't do a very good job of arguing their case. They will, they argued very much on not just on the side of Sony, but they argued the keystone to their opposition here was Call of Duty. That's where their case hinged on primarily. Versus what's going on with the UK, the CMA's big concern is the cloud gaming sector. Maybe you can chalk that up to how big Call of Duty is here versus the UK. But the judge wasn't really buying into what the FTC was arguing. Now, for example, the idea that Microsoft would be pulling Call of Duty off of the shelves, digital or real. The judge was not swayed. Basically saying that the agreements that they reached with the various cloud services and Nintendo were adequate to show that Microsoft was keen on keeping Call of Duty multi-platform. Now, I've seen some people ask, what about other Activision franchises? What about Blizzard stuff? Well, here's the thing. Nobody was arguing those. That's how central Call of Duty was to the argument here. Mm-hmm. Diablo, Overwatch, nary a mention from what I, at least from what I saw. If it came up, it was in passing. That's how foundational Call of Duty was to the FTC's arguments. Anyway, what the judge was saying was Microsoft has committed to keeping Call of Duty on other platforms for a decade. And okay, And to people who and this includes the FTC, like the FTC could not actually provide much actual evidence.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking about like actual evidence, not, they're going to do that because that's what logically that they would do. And yes, Bethesda games did come up in this. Like, the FTC actually did cite Starfield going Xbox exclusive as a reason why this merger should be stopped. But the judge wasn't swayed because she noted Starfield is not Call of Duty. Especially given that the FTC has been arguing that Call of Duty is this extra special franchise, like that.
When in fact it's only slightly special in that it is debatably one of the 2 or 3 biggest names in PvP shooting.
Well, I think the funniest thing of all is 360 generation Call of Duty stuff was coming out first on Microsoft. Like,
right.
They could literally bring that deal back. But, I mean, that's just me, and what do I know?
Right, but the idea that, Microsoft can yoink Call of Duty away from different platforms, it does not hold water because they have signed actual contracts, with other providers. Notably, they offered this contract to Sony. Sony hasn't signed. Sony has not signed this contract. And
I mean, as much as this would piss people off, if Call of Duty is getting Microsoft's IP, if they don't want to put another console, why would they have to?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Yeah, fair.
They have to because they have commitments.
After the commitments are done. Say in 2035, they release a new Call of Duty game, and they don't want to put it on PlayStation after these commitments are done. Who says they have to?
Well, and they have already proven willing to
here's the thing.
Not release things on other platforms to spite their face with the Bethesda thing.
Well, here's the thing. You can't do that in law. You can't do that in business. You can't have that kind of stipulation. You have to define a time parameter. That's why the time parameter has been a decade.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say X amount of years. You can't leave it vague.
Yeah.
Contracts have to have a specific amount of time.
Yeah, and on the same token, they don't have to renew those contracts if they don't want to.
Even if it is something along the lines of, for the life of the King of England's surviving relatives plus 10 years or whatever the fuck.
Right. My point is, Microsoft literally cannot commit Call of Duty indefinitely, on a contractual basis, because that's not how contracts work. Also worth noting, Microsoft executives, have stated in court under oath that they will not pull Call of Duty from PlayStation.
It would be stupid if they did.
It's not just stupid. They have, and it's not a reputational thing. If they did this now, they could be found liable for perjury.
Mm-hmm.
they've stated that they are not going to take Call of Duty away. I'm like, and they're now on. It's not just the honor system like with what it is with like Minecraft, for example. Like Minecraft is still multi-platform even after Microsoft bought that up. Like
yeah, they have no obligation to continue supporting it on PlayStation, Nintendo.
Right. And it's not just even like with say Fallout 76 or the Elder Scrolls Online, where that's legacy stuff. Like, but the point is Mike, and this has been the fundamental problem with the FTC's stance and why apparently their Wikipedia page just got vandalized with Sony logos. Like, they're not working in collusion with Sony, but
it definitely sounds like somebody who has a PlayStation at home and doesn't want to have to worry about buying an Xbox to get their Call of Duty fix early.
Yeah, they've been arguing more on the behalf of Sony than the consumer, and this is one of the things
which is their job.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that the judge admonished or ruled against, or the rationale of ruling. Let's say, like it's like. The judge has said that she's not finding that consumers will be harmed. Like
we have actual mergers and acquisitions that are actually hurting human people, like power companies, telecom companies, that their mergers and acquisitions are actually at worst inconveniencing people or even putting people's lives at risks. Well, if you look at stuff in California.
Well, this isn't a what about session.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's like the FTC has been doing its job here, I will say, in that and I think surprised a lot of people with being tenacious about it, because remember, like, people have been complaining about all of these mega mergers happening, but this is the thing that I've been saying here and on MSP, like mergers and acquisitions do not get blocked because Big Thing is acquiring other big but smaller thing. Here's a thing that people are going to have. They don't have to like it. Oh God, no. But consolidation.
Unfortunately, with the legal system we currently have,
the legal system,
it's very difficult to just be against mergers and acquisitions.
I'm like, there's no precedent for that.
Yeah, there's no reason for the legal, specifically in this, there's no reason for the legal system to be involved.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that either. It's like a merger of this size, like literally the biggest video game acquisition or merger by a country mile, $70 billion, is certainly worth scrutinizing. Like,
well, I guess scrutinizing is one thing, but how long has this been going on?
Quite a while. Like,
yeah.
But that's not what. But that's not what I'm saying. The thing is, the FTC has dropped the ball because they have presented a shockingly weak argument. They have not followed avenues that might be better, like cloud gaming. that came up a bit, but once again, the cornerstone was Call of Duty. Like, it's like right here what the judge said. Microsoft's acquisition. Judge Corley said in the following: Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been described as the largest in tech history. It deserves scrutiny. The scrutiny has paid off. Microsoft has committed in writing, in public, and in court to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for 10 years on parity with Xbox. It made an agreement with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to the Switch. And it entered into several agreements for the first time to bring Activision's content to several cloud gaming services. The court's responsibility in this case is narrow. It is to decide if, notwithstanding these current circumstances, the merger should be halted, perhaps even terminated, pending resolution of FTC administrative action. For the reasons explained, the court finds that the FTC has not shown in likelihood it will prevail on its claim in this particular vertical merger in this specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. The motion for a preliminary injunction is therefore denied.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not joking when I said, like, Call of Duty, they made it the heart of their case here. And that was just a major tactical error.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they have not shown that competition will be restrained by the Microsoft acquisition.
Mm-hmm. And even if it would be, it wouldn't be under the purview of what's happening now. That would be an entirely different lawsuit under an entirely different jurisdiction. If such thing would arise.
Yeah. But, yeah, the considerations have been analyzed. And the conclusion is that no, competition will not be lessened, at this, for the duration of the contract. It's like, which is good enough for the court because once again, I know a lot of people, especially on the left, are just anti-merger and acquisition, no matter what the cost, no matter what the situation. And I keep having to tell people that's not how it works. It's never how it worked. Like, yeah, okay.
I mean, there is a very real case to be made.
I'm not talking about like personal preferences or opinions, or anything.
I wasn't gonna say that. What I was gonna say is that I mean, it does probably have some deleterious effects on the market in the long term, but there's no actual legal precedent for doing anything about it on those grounds because they're not the specific issues that get brought up, and it's really hard to prove over a long period of time.
Well, here's the thing: if that is the case, then you bring that case in front of the judge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. Like, if Microsoft is going to have a monopoly in cloud gaming, like the CMA it has been stating, then that's what was going to happen in the UK until they put pause on it. They were going to go before the CRT. I forget what the judicial body is named right now, but they were going to go in front of that body and argue the case. This is how it actually works in the real world, in the real courts. It's like,
I mean, we are right now at a point in history where the biggest, I think, antitrust breakup in history, which was probably the phone system thing, has been like 99% reversed.
I'm like, once again, that's a complicated thing of its own. and also like the bells have been would have been largely been regarded rendered irrelevant by the rise of the internet and telephony and all that.
That is also true. Yes.
It's like that is well beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. But
it's just the other big the big example that I can think of exactly how not positive, but at least like uncaring about like monopolization.
Well,
the general system is right now.
Well, I mean, that was a different scenario. I mean, first of all,
that was basically a utility, even though it was a private company.
It's not just a utility, but it was also that was a monopoly operating as a monopoly. This is more, what is the potential to be a monopoly?
Yeah.
Despite
the fact that I'm pretty sure they did show specific documents in Microsoft saying that they basically plan to do everything in their power to drive all of their competitors out of business because that's capitalism.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to capitalism. You must be new.
Well, no, not exactly. They said they were going to outspend their competition. That's the actual quote.
Yeah.
That because here's the thing. Acquisitions don't get easier after something like this. Just look at the amount of scrutiny that Microsoft has gone through just, to acquire Activision. There are people that EA is next or Take-Two. No. Microsoft is not going to be acquiring any major game publishers after this, because every acquisition makes the argument of we're not a monopoly harder.
Mm-hmm.
Not impossible, but harder. Especially if we're talking about one of the bigs. Now, it's all like what gets lost here is like Microsoft, and keep in mind the acquisition targets that Galax is citing here is from, this came up in the trial, but it's like from 2020, 2021. It's before the Activision thing got serious.
Mm-hmm.
It's why, don't expect Microsoft to go after Sega right after this.
Mm-hmm.
They've still got to deal with, Activision, Activision Blizzard and the integrations within therein.
Yeah, this is still a few multi-year process just to integrate ActiBliz into Microsoft.
Yeah. But also to say that Microsoft is completely done with acquisitions is probably not the right answer either. It's just, what do they want next? What would help them next? And I think, I think that's why, the Square Enix and Sega stuff had so much play last, when it came up, is because, Microsoft has been, very famously, never doing well in Japan, let's say.
Yeah.
And has been looking a way to buy in to the Japanese market and really the Southeastern Asian market for a long while now. I'm like, I can't really speculate on if Microsoft would really go for Sega or Square Enix or one of the big Japanese publishers, because while yes, they would still face scrutiny over here, because another thing I keep mentioning is every merger has to go through, not just the principal country, in this case, Japan, but all of the countries where they do business. So,
which, if nothing else, will take a goddamn long time.
Yeah.
The only one I could see working with Microsoft would be maybe Platinum. And even they're a little too niche to really get them into the Japanese market.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that got missed by a lot of people. Everyone was looking at, look at the majors that Microsoft was targeting.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't just targeting majors. They were looking at all sorts of companies. They were looking at mobile companies. They were giving serious thought to acquiring Zynga, for example.
Well, they technically have King now, unless something stops.
Well, yeah. Once again, Microsoft has stated that their big motivation for getting Activision isn't Activision, isn't Blizzard. It's King. They want the mobile money. So many companies want the mobile money.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people forget that ActiBliz has King.
Right. But, that's because they don't call themselves Activision Blizzard King.
Mm-hmm.
The most you get is when you see the initials, ABK.
And then they're like, oh shit, King's here too.
Right. I'm like, and King Mobile, they're the ones who make Candy Crush.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of the biggest mobile games of all time.
And I was like, if you need to know what Candy Crush is, go talk to your mother.
And Microsoft wants that more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because, once again, the mobile money is more than anything. It's just trying to get in there organically is really fucking hard in the year of 2023.
They tried that in the early 2000s and they failed horrifically.
Not the only time. Anyone
the
remember
most
Windows
recent?
Phone? No,
I guess their biggest push might have been either Windows Phone or this early 2000s in general, getting into the Japanese gaming market.
Oh no, I'm talking about mobile.
Yeah.
Windows Phone. Remember fucking Microsoft Mobile?
Did Windows Phone even come out in Japan? I thought that was canceled.
I'm not talking about Japan. I'm just talking about
East or Asia in general. Yeah.
Anyway, as much as I'd like to keep talking about this, we do need to shift to topic number 2 because it's 10:20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Petty, play the transition music. All right. So our second topic for the week is LRG3. Not lazy game reviews, it's limited run games.
Yeah, you were close.
I mean, they're almost the same initials.
Indeed.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, LRG3, their E3 replacement conference thing happened just a few hours ago, and is providing us with convenient talking fodder. As they have announced a surprising amount of interesting things.
Gex has a pulse. Kind of.
I'm like, one of the bigger things, surprisingly, is the Gex trilogy. Limited run games is going to be bringing the console games.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to state.
And this is all. This was they were announcing actual things and not just things that already existed that they're making physical versions of.
Yes.
But there was some of that as well.
There was some of that as well.
Yeah. Like,
presumably almost everything on this, I think everything on this list is getting a limited run games physical version.
yes. They had things like everything from the Castlevania Advanced to what was it? Rise of the Triad Ludicrous Edition, and so on and so forth. Like we're not really talking about that.
Release the package that includes Symphony of the Night on the Switch.
There's a problem with that because Symphony of the Night is using on the PlayStation 4 is using Sony's custom emulator.
Yup.
I know.
Yeah, that's why
I didn't say it was likely. I said I want it.
I get that. I'm just saying somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack here.
Mm.
The Gex trilogy, the main console version, so no Game Boy. As far as I didn't see anything in regards to like the Game Boy Color version of Gex 2.
I forgot that existed.
Most people do. Most people forget about. Oh yeah, there are portable versions of these games.
Yeah, and they're not just watered down versions of the original games.
Yeah. Speaking of
how many
watered
of the Gex games were 3D?
2. Gex Enter the Gecko and Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko.
Okay.
Yeah, Gex 1 was actually a side-scrolling platformer.
Yeah.
Shockingly for 3DO.
Yeah, hopefully they use the 3DO version because the 3DO version had that's the one that had actual saves and more content. It's also worth noting that many of these are going to be using. They are emulation jobs using what Limited Run Games calls the Carbon engine.
Yes.
It's basically their equivalent to Night Dive's Kex engine. It's a wrapper that they can put classic games into. I'm not sure how flexible it is because I know less about the Carbon engine than the Kex engine.
Yeah, that's one of those we're probably gonna need to go grab somebody from the dev team for an interview on that at some point, if possible.
I mean,
Limited Run Games, call us.
Yeah. I mean, I was in negotiations with Limited Run Games, but the person I was talking to literally quit, and also Douglas Bogart, who we interviewed a long time ago, is no longer with Limited Run. So basically, it's a starting from square one situation.
If you'd like to be on our podcast, let us know.
Yeah, I have to actually ask them. I have not done that.
I know.
Anyway, like I said, there's a lot of stuff here. We got an announcement for Tomba coming back. Now, this one interests me because I was a big fan of Tomba and Tomba 2 back in the day.
I haven't heard that name in years.
I was going to say, if you haven't heard of Tomba, it was a mascot platform. I mean, it was like a 2D mascot platformer type thing back from the era where there were tons of those, if I remember correctly.
Yep. And this was one of the better ones. I like Tomba 1 more than Tomba 2 because Tomba 1 was really high fidelity 2D graphics instead of the ugly low poly stuff that they had for Tomba 2.
If I remember, both games, weren't they trapped on the PS3's virtual console alike for the longest time?
I think so. I think the Tomba games were released on the PlayStation 3 by Monkey Paw Games. We actually did an interview with them about that way back, in I think 2015 or so.
Something like that.
All I know is Monkey Paw Games doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, there's a reason why these are very hard to get.
Yeah, there's a reason why there's only 14% of classic games that are available to the purchasing populace.
Yeah.
But we don't have time to go over that. Anyway, Shantae Advance Risky Revolution was announced.
Shantae 1.5, the one that got canceled.
Yep. This was going to be their Game Boy Advance game, hence the title. It was just going to be called Shantae Advance.
Because that's how they called them back then.
Yeah. I mean, that was back in the lazy naming era of Nintendo platforms. I am really glad that died out. I think everyone's really glad that, things aren't named, after the platform in question.
I mean, Advance, the numbers ones were fine, and Super and Advance double well as phrases that mean it's the new hotness.
Still, it was lazy naming.
Yeah.
You can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got the Jurassic Park collection, or the Jurassic Park Classic Games collection. We are really stretching the definition of the word classic, aren't we? Because
I think somebody may be smoking something too on this one.
Well, I mean, this is the same company that, for whatever reason, revived the Bill and Ted games for the NES and Game Boy. Because, okay, here's the thing. The Jurassic Park games, in general, they weren't good.
Isn't that top-down one, not bad, aside from the fact that there was no fucking save and it was incredibly long?
That's the Super NES one, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, okay, first of all, to clarify, the Jurassic Park games that the limited run games did manage to gather are the ocean ones. That means Jurassic Park for the NES, Game Boy, and Super NES. Jurassic Park Part 2, The Chaos Continues. Yeah, they actually made a Jurassic Park game before Lost World came out. I believe The Chaos Continues came out in 1994, which is well before The Lost World got released. Because by the time The Lost World came out, we were in the era of the PlayStation, the Saturn. But Game Boy and SNES here. This is significant because there is a large chunk of the Jurassic Park classic games that are missing here. Anything for Sega platforms. And there's a reason for that. That is because Sega themselves published all of the Jurassic Park games on Sega platforms and in the arcades.
Which puts them in a somewhat different position in terms of trying to actually release that.
Yeah, so they would and as far as I know, limited run games doesn't work with Sega. Sega works with or am I thinking of some of the franchises they've released out?
Digital, I think they do a lot of the old porting stuff with.
Right. I'm not thinking. I'm trying to remember. No. Sega just releases stuff themselves. They don't contract out.
That is, in fact, the main thing that they do these days.
Yeah. We've got other things here. We've got Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, the definitive edition. This is less of a surprise to me because Limited Run Games has been releasing bad FMV games for a while now. After they put out Night Trap and Double Switch and Corpse Killer. It's I don't think that Plumbers. I think Plumbers Don't Wear Ties wasn't a digital pictures release though. But I saw the
they
trailer.
are also releasing a definitive Night Trap, I believe.
I thought that came out already.
Yeah, I think it came out already,
or at least a physical version of it.
Yeah, they played this tongue firmly in cheek. So they played into the reputation. They had James Rolfe in the trailer. the person who arguably made that game famous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's see. In other classic games being revived, Clock Tower is coming back, and is finally getting released in the West.
Jesus.
Like,
And that was a franchise with a significant legacy.
yes, but I'm talking about the original Super Nintendo release that we never got.
Right.
Clock Tower didn't become a thing over here until the PlayStation. And I think I think we were denied like the original Clock Tower on the PlayStation as well. Like, I think like Clock Tower 2 came out as Clock Tower over here. It's one of those games that has a confusing release scheme. But, the big thing is Clock. I'm looking forward to that one because Clock Tower is still a fairly unique survival horror game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. In terms of original games, we do have some stuff here. Chief among them are Zet. So this is an interesting one. Arzek, the Jewel of the Faramore. Okay.
The place.
Well,
they're talking around it in the thing because obviously someone else's intellectual property. But they decided they wanted to make a game. Someone, I don't know who the developers are, decided they wanted to make a game in the style of the. I think they actually I know it flashed up CDI as in like an ocular sensor that is like seeds, but yes, it's in the style of the CDI Legend of Zelda games.
Well, it's not just in the style. They got Rob Dunleavy, the artist behind the world map paintings from the games that inspired Arzet, i.e., they got the map painter from the Zelda CDI games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having seen the game footage, it looks like what if the Zelda CDI games, and also Hotel Mario is in there. I saw that portion. Like, I saw that level. But what if but good?
Yeah, because the concept of those games was never the problem with those games.
No.
The problem with those games was that the level art was generally fine, but not well designed in terms of level flow.
Yeah.
And then the platform detection was terrible.
Oh God.
The controls were ass beyond ass, which is arguably the biggest problem.
I can vouch for this. I've actually played Zelda Wand of Gamelon. I didn't play Link Faces of Evil, but I didn't really need to. You played one, you played them both. They're the same game, basically.
Aside from having, different specific things to treat and or punish your eyes with.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my last point, which is that the animation, in spite of being horrifying in many ways, was actually generally pretty good.
Right, and in keeping in that tradition, let's say, the animation here is being done in MS Paint. Like, I'm not joking. Right. So, like I said, it's a weird thing to want to have a spiritual successor from, but, inspiration hits from unlikely places sometimes.
It's also worth pointing out that if you look beyond the beyond ass controls, the CDI games were released before Link to the Past. They're a reasonable, conceptual follow-up to most of Zelda 2.
That is not true.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, no, wait, it isn't. Sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly...
It's pretty close, though.
Yeah, it's about a year. Because The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past came out in 1992. And the Zelda titles came out in, 93, I think. But
see,
still,
yeah,
if
it's
anything,
about a year. Sorry.
Yeah, if anything, this is got novelty on its side because oh hey, like it's something in the retro style, but it's not another 8-bit title or 16-bit title, or oh hey, we were inspired by like Mario or DuckTales or Castlevania or Mega Man. We were inspired by the Zelda goddamn CDI titles, and that's just neat. And they've got some other stuff here. Double Shake. I don't really have an opinion on this. Yeah, though this is what I'm talking about more generally. This is apparently Blast of the Past. It's a 2D 5 platformer inspired by some of our favorite 5th generation games. I'm not saying this is bad or anything. I'm just saying that kind of inspiration is fairly commonplace in the indie scene.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, the special snowflakes that are inspired by the CDI Zelda titles. And they've also announced another Crusade, which is a 3D platformer with puppets.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting choice.
Anyway, Petty is asking for the tap out sign, so and plus we've just run through all the titles here, so we can wrap up. So yeah, coming up on the week ahead. Let me see. Coming up on Friday, July 14th, we'll be having Kevin Beimers. I'm not exactly sure which connotation that I is using of Italic Pig. They will be our first Northern Ireland game developer. So that's something to look forward. They are currently developing the game Paleo Pines. We'll be talking about that on Friday. Hopefully, things will be better with Petty by then.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and coming up on the Monday game reviews, we'll be having reviews of Sokoban, Chronicles of Albion, The Magic Convention, Scepter Road Voyager, and Muse Dash. Once again, we were supposed to review these last week, but didn't get to it. And we do have a new episode of MSP planned. Bit touch and go with Mac this week as well. So we'll see how that pans out. But until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.